Hello, everyone. This is Charles Walter Buntjer coming to you from San Francisco. I've lived here over 60 years and I've met thousands of people at that time. I've heard a lot of interesting stories, and I think this is one story you'll really like. I was at the Central YMCA in the downtown San Francisco. It was a wonderful YMCA, and on the ground floor they had a small cafe where you could have breakfast and lunch and sit out at the tables and have a coffee. So one day I was sitting there and Wayne Chow came by and sat with me. I said to him, everybody knows my life story, but I don't know anything about you. Do you have anything that you might want to tell me about your life? Well, you should have seen Wayne. He cracked up. He said, wait till you hear this story. He said, I was born in the late 1940s, and my mother thought I was the cutest thing in the world. She used to watch me at home. When the music was on, I'd dance around and carry on, and when a movie was on TV, I would pantomime everything. So she thought, this might be a good way to get him into show business and make a little money on the side. So off they went. They went to the theaters, they went to talk to managers and production people and talent agents and everything. And when he was 6, he was lucky to get walk-on parts, and then later on, a little longer parts, maybe not speaking very much, but at least on the stage. And he did this for over 10 years. Now, he was approaching 17 years old or so, 10 years in the business, and of all things, he got a part in The King and I, starring Yul Brynner. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the King and I and Yul Brynner. Yul was from Russia, and he came here and was modeling and doing a few small Broadway plays, and someone told him he should sign up and see if he could get a actor's job at The King and I on Broadway. He signed up, and guess what? He got the job. And a year later, in 1951, he won a Tony for starring in The King of Siam. Now, the woman who starred with him also won a Tony, but she said that he was a nasty piece of work and didn't like working with him. Now, what's even more interesting is a few years later, in 1956, he had done the movie of The King and I, and he won an Academy Award for that. Now, he won the Tony in 1951, and he won the Academy Award in 1956. He also played a role in Anastasia, and Ingrid Bergman won the Academy Award for that the same year, 1956. They went on stage and got their Oscars, and later on, Ingrid Bergman said he was a nasty piece of work and didn't like working with him, and neither did the staff. So much for that. Now we have Yul Brynner, and as I said, he came from Russia. He changed his name, of course. He did modeling. Um, he broke into Broadway and then into movies. And he did a lot of movies. I think in the late 50s, 57, 58, something like that, he was a top money maker for movies for a couple of years. So even though he was a nasty piece of work, he was hardworking. I think he did 4,600 uh, played in the King and I over the years. That's a lot of nights and afternoons playing a part. There is also the famous part of the King and I on Broadway and in the movie where the king sits on the throne and the chamberlain takes his staff and bangs it around and says that the children will come up and present themselves to the king. And that was really a favorite part of the play and in the movies. People in the audience at the theater just loved to see these people come up, or children. And at that time, I think Wayne was about 17 or so. And then, of course, the youngest was 5 or 6. Now we come to the exciting part of Wayne's life. As I said, he was 17 and he became the oldest prince, son of the king of Siam. So he and the 8 or 10 children would come out on stage and stand behind the curtain before they came on stage. Now, I believe it was toward the end of the run, and Wayne looked out of the curtain to see what was going on, and it was packed with people. So on with the play. Just the audience ate it all up, and it was just wonderful. Now, I do have to say, for some reason, Wayne said he could not figure it out. Maybe it was his change of life, but suddenly he thought that Yul Brynner was the toast of the town. He just couldn't get enough of him. He had gotten a small studio or one-room apartment just a few blocks from the theater, and he moved away from his mother, and he also had a part-time job, so he had it made. He's in a play with Yul Brynner, who he adored, and he had his own little apartment, just happy as could be. Then he found out that Yul didn't want to be with the riffraff, so he would come in a half an hour early and walk into the stage door and go to his room with a big star on it, of course, and they would put some kind of oil, like baby oil, all over on him and wipe it off so that his skin was just shiny as could be when he went on stage. And they did his makeup, and they put this little sarong on him and his sandals and stuff, and all the time he was chain smoking and giving attitude. So Wayne decided that he was going to go and start coming in 45 minutes early so that he could see his heartthrob come through that door and go to his dressing room. So Wayne leaves early, hides in the shadows in the hallway, and this goes on for several months. Now Yul sees him after a while and kind of gives him the nasty look, but at the same time, he thought, well, this guy really thinks I'm hot stuff, and a lot of people don't like me, so maybe it's okay. So off he'd go to his dressing room, and of course, you'd hear a big sigh from Wayne. So then, it was toward the end of the run, and they're getting ready to go on stage, and Wayne looks out of the curtain and sees 3,000 or 4,000 people packed in the house. And the first 4 or 5 rows were full of people that had been there 2, 3, 4 times. Now, how often are you going to go to see a play where the lead in the play, Yul Brynner, won a Tony, won an Oscar, and is a top salesperson in the movie industry? Very rare you're going to find that out. So that night, it was time to come on stage, and the Chamberlain came out and took his rod, and he went bang, 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 and Yul Brynner came out, nose in the air, stomping around, lots of attitude, walked up the 4 or 5 steps to his big throne and sat on there, and he was like this, eyes in the air. And then the Chamberlain banged his rod, bang, bang, and he says, the children of the king of Siam are here to present themselves. And the children would all come out in a row and stand along the side of the left side of the stage, and they all bow. And then the Chamberlain would go bang, bang, presenting the Prince of Siam, the oldest son of the king of Siam and future king of Siam, here to present himself to the king. Now, they did that for each of the children, and the end one, of course, the little 6-year-old would come running up and curtsy and run back, and the audience just thought this was fabulous. So the Chamberlain had announced the king's oldest son, and Wayne walked up in those little steps like they thought Asians should do, and he's like, and he gets up and he said, he put his knees on the first step and bent over and banged his head like on the third step, bang, bang, bang. And then he looked up like this, like he was trying to see if there was anything underneath Yul Brynner's little cloth outfit. Well, they all wondered what was going on. He wasn't supposed to be on his knees and stuff, banging his head on the next step up. Well, all at once, Wayne says he doesn't know what happened, but he suddenly stood up, and suddenly the children shut up, the audience shut up, everyone shut up, everybody went into a trauma. Wayne said he didn't remember anything. Everything disappeared from him. He doesn't know what got into him. He stood up, he looked at Yul, he walked up those steps, he got a hold of the arm of the big throne, crawled up onto it, and sat on Yul Brynner's lap. Now, he snuggled up against him, put his arm up around his neck, and put his head on his chest, and looked, and there was that nice nipple, and he went, ooh, I don't think I should lick it or chew on it. So then, they didn't know what to do. The Chamberlain went bang, bang. The Princess of Siam, the oldest daughter, is here to present herself. So she goes up, and then all the way down to the little 6-year-old, and went back, and they were all staying there. And the Chamberlain didn't know what to do, and the audience went like, what's going to happen? And he goes, bang, bang. Everybody, all the children can go back to their rooms in the palace. Well, Yul Brynner was fit to be tied. He picked up Wayne around the waist, put him down on like the third step, and put his foot in his butt and went bwomp, and pushed him off the thing. Well, Wayne was so excited about what had happened that he didn't even think about it. He went back to have his costume taken off and his makeup and stuff, and at the end of the day, or the end of the production, people would either go out and have a drink or dinner or just go home. So Wayne was all excited after what happened, and he waltzes out the door of the stage door, and suddenly an arm came out and a hand and took him by the collar and went yank, and yank, yank, yank. And he went, what? Well, it was the manager, the production manager, and I'm not sure who else was there, but they shook Wayne all around the hallway, and they told him in no uncertain terms he was 86 from the theater, and if he ever came back, there'd be big trouble. They also said that they were going to blacklist him, and he would never get a job again on the theater, in the theater or on stage anywhere in New York City, and maybe not any place else after they blacklisted him, and they kicked him out the door. So Wayne goes home to his little studio apartment, and he's sitting there and he's thinking, well, you know, there aren't many roles anymore, because for a while there was the Flower Drum Song, and there was the King and I and some other ones, but they were all drying up now. There really weren't any openings for Asian actors, especially actors who were 18 or 19 and kind of scrawny and weren't sure what was, if they were coming or going. So he said, well, it probably worked out for the best. And a couple days later, he's relaxing and he hears this bang on the door. He wondered what that was. He opens the door up and there's this big man in a black suit and an attaché case. He says, are you Wayne Chow? And he said, yeah, I am. He said, could I come in and talk to you a little bit? He said, well, sure, why not? So he came in and he said, I have papers for you to sign. Wayne said, huh, papers? He said, yeah. He said, there's 2 sets of papers and you can sign each one. I want you to read it first and then sign it. So he read it, and after he got all through, the man said, do you know what this said? And he said, yeah, I know. He said, it's one of those orders that I'm not supposed to be loitering around Yul Brynner. And he said, yeah, it's a restraining order. And he said, so I advise you to keep away from it from now on, because if you get caught, you'll be put in jail. So he said, do you have any questions? And Wayne says, I have 2 questions. He said, okay, what are they? Wayne says, first, is this really Yul Brynner's signature on this? And he said, yes, on both of them, and dated. And then he said, what else do you want to know? He said, well, he said, that's my signature also. He said, do I get to keep a copy of this? And he said, yes, of course you get that copy, and then the original goes to the police station, and just in case, you don't follow orders. And Wayne said, oh, that sounds good to me. So the man went to leave, and he stood at the door, and he said, I'm telling you, don't get in trouble. I'd say 1,000 feet or more away from Yul Brynner, because you don't want to end up in jail. And Wayne says, not to worry, I'm never going back to that theater again, or any other theater. He said, I got a part-time job, and now that's going to be a full-time job. So I'm perfectly happy. So the man leaves, and Wayne says, ooh. He flies down the street, and he goes to a store where they sell frames with glass inserts. He rushed back, he folded that sucker into the frame, and he put it over his bed. So he thought, not only did I sit on Yul Brynner's lap and give him a big hug and check out those nipples, but, he says, I also now have a signature of his that I put on the wall behind my bed. So every time I look at the wall, I think, oh, I've got not only a close-up of him, but I've got his signature also. He says, wow, what a life. So that was the end of this story. And I hope you enjoyed it, because every time I think about it or tell about it, I just think it's the most hysterical thing in the world. So I will drink to that, and hopefully I'm going to have some more stories about other people I met over the years in San Francisco. Enjoy.